Chip stocks are looking to regain footing after a volatile week for markets. Semiconductor ETFs in particular bearing a bit of the brunt of the market rout last week. But let's focus on the chip giant NVIDIA, losing over $900 billion in market cap since its prior highs back in June. It did recover towards the end of the week and does continue to rise as investors anticipate earnings coming up in a few weeks here. So joining us to discuss what is next in the chip space, we've got John Vinh. He is KeyBank's capital markets equity research analyst. John, it's great to speak with you. So obviously the volatility impacted the entire market, and chip stocks, of course, were a part of that. What do you think will be the single biggest driver of chip stocks moving forward in the next couple of weeks as we do wait for those NVIDIA earnings?
Yeah, I think you're going to have maybe a couple earnings reports before NVIDIA. You've got ADI reporting next week, which obviously is going to be a read on the broader recovery from a cyclical perspective. But I think outside of that, I think all eyes are going to be focused on NVIDIA's earnings in 2 weeks.
John, what do you think we're going to hear from NVIDIA? Because we talk about the lack of catalyst between now and then. Do you think they're going to meet and exceed expectations, which is ultimately the huge question right now?
Yes, we do. I think if you look at the sell-off over the last several weeks related to the chip sector, and maybe more specifically to NVIDIA, I think, one, you have some concerns about maybe hyperscale CapEx getting to kind of peak levels, but I think those were largely addressed later when you had comments coming out from Microsoft that it's still seeing phenomenal demand on the AI front, and it's actually supply constrained. And then obviously the second factor is, there's some concerns out there that its next generation Blackwell product could be delayed. I wouldn't find that too surprising. They're on an annual chip cadence, which is something that's really never been done before within the AI industry. Typically, you're on a 2 to 3 year cadence. So if you're kind of moving to an annual cadence, I don't think that's surprising. And I think investors, if it's really a supply or timing issues, I think most investors are willing to kind of look through that. If it was a demand issue, I think we'd have other issues here with NVIDIA. But from our perspective, we think they'll beat and raise. We don't think near-term demand is going to be an issue at all.
What do you anticipate the market reaction to that looking like? Because we have seen NVIDIA come out in the past and beat and raise, and the market has not necessarily rallied around that news because the anticipation is so baked in.
I would say with a pullback in the stock to around $100, I think a beat and a raise, assuming that it's pretty solid, should be adequate. If you think about NVIDIA's valuation at these levels, we think they're going to do over $5 and change next year. You're trading at 20 times, which is puts NVIDIA almost into kind of value stock range relative to the broader semiconductor market, which is kind of trading at kind of mid to high 20s right now.
So, John, there's lots to like, it sounds like, about NVIDIA. What would you tell investors is the most compelling second source play on AI?
We like monolithic power. They're a derivative play on NVIDIA. They supply power management solutions to the majority of NVIDIA's GPU solutions. In the next generation Blackwell, they're also going to gain significant amounts of content. Their ASPs are going to go up 40%. And then they're also gaining share at other providers. They're also now supplying power to AMD's GPUs. And later this year, we think they're also going to gain share on Google's TPUs.
What do you look at to indicate that thesis, John? Because, and I asked because I was going to ask you about your call on Micron. You did trim your price target, and you noted a couple of reasons why, particularly given the demand for the data center piece there. But what is the one thing that investors should take a look at when they are determining the long-term potential gains of an AI play?
Yeah, I would say kind of barriers to entry. I think when you think about NVIDIA, it's obviously got a significant advantage from a software mode perspective with CUDA, and also just their competitiveness. If you look at their next generation Blackwell solution, particularly GB200, this is not an incremental performance improvement that you typically get when a semiconductor company releases their next generation chip. This is a pretty transformational release where they're moving from a chip-based solution to a full stack server rack solutions where there's going to be potentially a 20 to 30x performance improvement. So I think that's kind of what you're going to be focusing on when you look at AI plays is, will they be able to continue to kind of push the envelope in terms of improving their performance leadership?
So then, John, where does that leave some of those other secondary plays when you take a look at AMD, some stocks that have been on a volatile run here over the last several months? Some of that negative moves that we had been seeing leading up to the last couple of weeks to the downside, was that a bit overdone? And do you see significant room to the upside?
I do. I think we still like AMD quite a bit. I think when NVIDIA first released their GB200 platform, I think there were some concerns out there of whether anyone else in the marketplace can compete and keep up with NVIDIA. I would say a couple of things, right? Obviously, the potential delay with Blackwell potentially gives AMD a little bit more breathing room. And in the history of technology, we have never seen somebody have a kind of a monopolistic position. It's just not sustainable. The market forces will not allow it. We think AMD has a competitive solution in MI300X. We think they're going to do $6 billion in revenues this year, which is obviously very small compared to what NVIDIA is going to do, but it's notable.
All right, John Vinh, great to get your insight here. Thanks so much for breaking down some of the recent moves that we've been seeing within the chip space. Equity research analyst at KeyBanc Capital Markets. Thanks so much.